It's Tuesday, April 14th, 2015. I'm Rim.
I am Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we're talking about the Sheriff of Nottingham. Really slowly for some reason. Also, mount your friends.
Let's do this.
So, we play a lot of games in our off and on game nights, but lately we've been playing a lot of DDR again. And, Dance Dance Revolution for all you young kids who just don't know things anymore.
The real revolution in gaming.
Man, it's sad because I realized years ago, because I had a red octane ignition pad, which was the best soft pad money could buy.
I still have one.
Yeah. So I had one that had a PS1, like a PlayStation hookup and nothing else.
Mine has all the hookups.
So
USB,
that can...
PlayStation.
Yeah, you can sell that for a decent amount of money because those haven't been manufactured in so long.
Why would I sell it when I could use it?
Yeah, you could use it. But I've bought some bootlegs, and at least you can still buy the bootlegs. DDR is so dead, except among ultra-hardcore DDR people and the kinds of people who are like arcade machine enthusiasts in the US, that I never really expected to run into people younger than me who play DDR, like more than a few years. But just recently, we've been having like some people over, like doing some parties and things, and DDR came up in casual conversation with strangers. And I was like, you DDR? And they're like, you DDR? And I'm like,
doesn't?
DDR another room. And they're like, bring to this room. And some of these people had never heard of Stepmania. And long story short, we've been playing a lot of fucking DDR again. And good God, is DDR the best dancing / Bamani game ever made?
DDR is one of the best games ever made.
I mean,
period.
Pump It Up, not as good.
In terms of best video games ever, DDR is way, way up there.
In fact, we did a PAX lecture on why DDR is kind of notable and why other games have not really filled that niche.
It's also a summer thing for some reason, even though it should be a winter thing. It always ends up being a summer thing.
I know, it's like the game I should play when I can't go outside, but then gets warm out, and suddenly the DDR pad is in the living room for the entire summer.
DDR fever kicks in when the sun comes out.
Yeah.
No, but like if you made like a rubric of like what it takes to be a great video game, I mean, if you think about the greatest video games, of which probably are things like Super Metroid.
Or Super Mario
right.
3.
Yeah, it's like, but even though those are probably better than DDR, if you look
better,
at the
that's like saying, is Star Wars better than like your mom's fancy recipe? Like, which one's better?
But it's like DDR, like probably if you had a scoring system, would at least a good scoring system that Scott approved, DDR might be the highest or perhaps only perfect scoring game there is.
Well, I mean, it's designed so well, though actually a lot of the things that we praised it for having such great design for didn't appear until Fourth Mix.
Well, Fourth Mix is when it began, right? First, second, and third are basically beta.
Third Mix is fine. Third Mix has some issues.
It's playable, but it's got problems.
But man, like when you accidentally you hit a Third Mix song with Third Mix arrows, you can feel Third Mix arrows in your bones.
That's
compared
right.
to like mixes after that,
where you feel Fourth Mix arrows
but like DDR,
in your hips.
Someone who's never played it before can play the same song next to someone who's played it for multiple decades, and they can both totally have fun.
Unless it's like some ridiculous max 300 nonsense.
Well, unless it's a song that doesn't have like beginner mode, which there aren't that many.
Well, no, the thing is, even the hard songs, if they do have a beginner mode, but like drop out beginner mode is like arrows coming up. Gotcha.
But there's like the fact that the arrows oscillate and that you can like train your brain. And I remember I was explaining to someone who was visiting us once. They're like, "There's no way you're reading all those arrows. Like you had to have done this before." And I'm like, "No, but I mean it's patterns. Your brain just kind of gets hardwired. Like if you play DDR, you'll start dreaming about DDR, like you'll dream about Tetris when you play a lot of Tetris. And then the next thing you know, like you see arrows, feet just move. Mm-hmm. There is no conscious thought between those two, input output.
Nope."
God damn, DDR is a good game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been thinking about for a long time buying a DDR machine, and the only reason I didn't just buy one, like literally before we did this show.
I don't have anywhere to put it.
Yeah, I don't have anywhere to put it either. So kind of thinking about seeing if the building would let me put it in the gym as an exercise machine. Like, it'd be mine, but if they let me put it there and plug it in and put it on free play,
And then you move out because the new building's going up. You can't see anything.
then if I want to, that's just the excuse to have the machine. If I have to move and the other building's like, no, you can't do that, then I'll figure something out. But, oh man, DDR machine. What I kind of want to do really is buy the replacement pad for a DDR machine and then set up like a relay box to an Arduino or something like that, and then just use that as a pad.
Yeah, I don't know what the hookups are for the.
It is well documented by ultra nerds.
So you can basically make a converter for it that goes to
Yeah,
USB.
I mean, it's like high voltage because there's a lot. It's not USB. I'll put it that way.
No, it's not.
But I'm confident I could plug that shit into an Arduino and make it happen. Part of it's like you got to power like all those lights and everything in there. I feel like with my modern knowledge, like I made a hard DDR pad a long time ago, and I feel like I could make one again that would be way better because I have more knowledge.
In your workshop?
But I don't have a workshop. But the reason my old DDR pad failed is partly because while I had a workshop, I didn't have a lot of money, so I cut corners. Like I made this sort of like 2 metal plates separated by weather stripping contact. Nowadays, I would just buy professional ribbon strips. So anyway, DDR, I feel like I'm going to be talking about DDR a lot as I play DDR again. That's all I got. That's my intro bit.
Okay.
So do you have any news now that we're past that bit to the next bit of the show?
There's not really a lot of news going on in the gaming world. I wanted to talk about Kojima being fired or not fired or whatever's going on there. But the thing is, whatever's going on there is so cryptic and so many conflicting in reports that I can't really talk about it with any reliability or meaning. So I just think it's really interesting, and I want to wait for it to, fully pan out so then we can get all the dirt and scoop it.
Yeah.
So instead, I'll just talk about Hearthstone, which is doing some pretty big-time upgrades lately, right? They came out with a new adventure, whatever, right? But the big deal is that in the latest update or whatever, every time an update comes out, basically people take apart the binary files to dig for assets. And they found a bunch of, textures that are for use in the iPhone version of the game, which isn't out yet.
This proves definitively that Half-Life 3 is coming in the summer.
Sure. No. But I mean, they're coming out with the iPhone version. They've said so, right? But
Yeah.
we sort of know what it's going to look like kind of now, right? I don't know why game companies keep including future assets that aren't being used in the current version.
I know why.
Whatever.
Because the way the version control is, it's just easier for everybody usually.
Just
because
be better at version control like I am anyway.
Yeah, I think it's the people. Having seen that happen in every company I've ever worked for.
I see a lot of companies like using feature flags. It's like, so they release non-production code to their production servers and just use different settings to keep those future unfinished, features disabled. And I'm like, fuck no, I'm not putting any code on the production server that isn't production ready.
We let that happen once with a product, and then I was like, yeah, we're not
Even
doing
though it
that
might
anymore.
be disabled by a flag. It's like, hell no.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the reason that's notable is, because there aren't really any other mobile games. And this is why, despite there being some problems with Hearthstone, right? It's very luck-based. You get to pay to win-ish, right? Despite it having many, many issues, which are sort of made up for by its actually usable user interface, which no other digital card game seems to have. It's pretty much the only multiplayer strategy game of note that you can play on an iPhone or iPad or pretty much tablet or phone, period.
I mean, the only other game I can think of is Neuroshima Hex.
Yeah, the only other games that you can play that are even, worthwhile on tablets or phones that are real strategy games are pretty much all just board games translated.
Yep.
Whereas Hearthstone is a card game, but it also takes advantage of the fact that it's only a video game. It's like you can take Magic and turn it into a video game, because anything you can do with cards, you can do with pixels. Hearthstone does things that cannot be done with cards at all, period.
Which is the right way to go if you're making a game like that. Like, I mean, Netrunner is cool because of the cards are the interface.
It would be very hard to actually, it's possible to do Netrunner a video game, but it's not possible to do Hearthstone card game. Netrunner the video game would be very, very difficult because there's so many timing windows. You'd have to basically constantly pause to give players the opportunity to do stuff.
A better option is whatever your medium is for a game, like tabletop video, like whatever your
Yep.
medium is for the game, do use the things that make that medium unique.
Sure, but it's like, how come there aren't any other tablet or phone games that are at least on the same level as Hearthstone in terms of multiplayer, somewhat meaningful strategy action?
You know, it's interesting because tons of games like that exist on mobile platforms.
They're all unplayable
They're all in the Game Boy
garbage.
Advance and the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color.
I mean, there are turn-based strategy military games on the mobile devices.
But they're mostly shitty.
But they're not Advance Wars. I've played like 4 or 5 of them, and none of them are Advance
Yeah,
Wars.
like seriously, unless you are Final Fantasy Tactics, Advance Wars, or Fire Emblem, like at least to that level, like don't even bother talking to me. There's no reason to play you.
Yeah, so I wish other companies would step in here, but until then...
Is it because the people who use, Game Boys, like dedicated game console, are more gamer-y and thus are more willing to play games?
I don't know.
As opposed to the wider market? Because I feel like most people making games for mobile are really going after the, like, shitware model.
I don't know. But meanwhile, the shitware companies are not having a good time lately.
That is true.
Zynga switched back to their original CEO recently because the newer one wasn't doing a good job. They're basically dead. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatevs.
So we'll see. So I have the tiniest little news here, and it's more relevant to Wednesdays, but whatever. So there's this robot statue that people keep calling a transformer, but it's not. It's obviously a non-Gundam suit from a Gundam world with a weird mohawk helmet. And it's in Turkey because some mayor was like, this thing's going here and taxpayers are paying for it.
Wait, but if he's a mayor, he can just say something. There's no town council or anything? He's just a dictator of the town?
You realize mayors in many places have surprisingly wide latitude in terms of their powers. And in a lot of places...
become a mayor.
Yeah.
Of New York.
Yeah. Of course, New York's mayor
How old do you have to
has
be?
basically been leashed to the governor and the state legislature
Sure,
because
but-
the state's afraid of us.
Sure, but how do you, how old you got to be?
I don't know. I think we're old enough to be mayor.
Oh, maybe we should try.
I think we just can't be like senators or presidents still.
Why don't we get like town council for LIC or something?
You want to go for that?
I don't know.
LSE isn't a town. I guess we could join the
There has to be a town council representative person.
for a town. What town are we in?
A city council.
The city of New York?
There's a city council. You can get on
Yes, there is for the
Yes.
city of New York.
Yes.
There's also the county government because we're in Queens County.
You don't want to do that. You don't do shit.
So anyway, this is just funny from a lot of perspectives because basically he started getting a lot of shit about this from people who are like,
Yeah,
why?
his comment was respect the robot.
Yeah, that was his response to all the criticism. So just go look at this thing. It's just kind of funny.
Best response. That's your news. It's the thing of the day, not a news.
No, because I got a thing of the day. So anyway, things of the day. So this is something related to my DDR stuff earlier. So if you lived behind the Iron Curtain, like in the Soviet Union during the Cold War, it was hard enough to get computers. So let's say you somehow got a computer.
You made Tetris with it.
You think you're going to fucking get a printer or a mouse or any peripheral? And this is a collection of the hacked together homemade peripherals that nerds in the Soviet Union made for their computers. There's like mice that were made out of spice containers with ping pong balls. Like this shit is amazing.
Why don't we make some peripherals?
You want to just make some peripherals?
Yeah.
All right. Check it out. I just made a mouse.
You just bought that mouse.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, I'll mod it. I'll hack it. I'll write my name on it. Now it's mine. I don't know. I don't think these people were making laser mice. I think they were making...
No one had laser mice then.
Yes, ping pong ball mice.
That's a good mouse, though.
The roller ball of a handmade mouse. It is a ping pong ball. Thank you,
They
caption.
couldn't even get a billiard ball like most people.
Ooh, whoa. A housing for the mouse. They used a plastic kitchen spice can. Inside, they placed a circuit board where there were two mutually perpendicular metal rollers. On both rollers, there was a jagged aperture made from thick paper. Its position was read using an LED and a pair of photo transistors. It was a light mouse.
Optical mouse. What
Yes.
year?
That
Was that perhaps the first optical mouse?
This nerd's optical mouse that he made behind the Iron Curtain was better than any mouse I owned during that era.
Good job, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So this thing's amazing, and you check out these
I
pictures.
should say, good job, comrade.
Yeah.
Excellent work.
So what do you got for me?
So there's this village somewhere. I don't even know the name of the village. It doesn't freaking matter. It's a village, and they have a tourist attraction in this village. It's a thing that many places have. It's a model of the village in the village, right? It's just like New York.
Yo, dog.
Just like there's a model of New York City out in the Queens Art Museum, there's a model of this village in this village. What's notable is that this model is pretty big. Pretty significant percentage of the village. It's not a big village, right? Is this model of itself.
Well, kind of like how, you go to a lot of conventions where they account for like 10% of the population of the town.
Yep. Well, this model of the village contains a model of the village model.
Whoa, dog. That is so up my alley. That is my kind of thing.
It is recursive a certain number of times. That is excessive, but not, impossible. So it's like you look at the model of you're in the village, you're looking at this model of the village, and in that model is a model of the model, and in that model is a model of the model, and perhaps 1 or 2 or 3 more times it goes down.
Scott, the fact that you picked this, because you know very well that one of my favorite things in the world is when someone has a picture of their cubicle in their cubicle, and in that picture is the picture of the cubicle. That kind of thing. The Yo Dog is my favorite thing.
Yo Dog, I put model village in your model village.
In the meta moment, the book club book is still Watership Down. It's a story for rabbits on an adventure. Maybe next week you should do The Secret of Nim. Yeah, I haven't read that in a long time.
Yeah, it's a kid's book.
Yeah. Half the books we've done are kids' books.
You keep picking kids' books. I pick adult books.
All right, what book are you going to pick next? All right, just don't cross me or it's going to be some Le Comte de Monte Cristo.
I don't know if this will cross you.
Or perhaps The Man in the Mask Made of Iron.
I'm not sure if this is crossing you or not, but we're going to find out.
We're going to find out indeed. I hope it's just something I've already read and I'll just laugh.
That's possible.
It is possible, especially because you won't tell me. All right, so that aside... we have no live shows like convention appearances
until Kineticon.
Until Kineticon in July.
Away.
If you want to present something at Kineticon, the panel submissions closed
over
half a month ago. The form is still open. You can still submit. However, I've been scheduling shit for a while. Unless what you submit is so awesome that I cannot resist, probably not getting into the schedule at this point. So let this be a lesson to you. Send your stuff to conventions early, not late.
Yep. Remember, conventions have like a whole year of not doing anything. You can probably start sending very shortly after the convention ends for the next year.
I mean, PAX Australia badges are already on sale, guys.
That's in October.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's it. Watch all our videos. We got tons of videos of our stuff on YouTube.
Come and check us out on the internet and all the other places besides Geeknights.
And join our forum.
You've apparently already found Geeknights, so go to the other places.
Yeah, our forum is pretty rocking, actually, and it's mostly smart people. We've banned so few people over the years that it's kind of unprecedented how good that community is. You guys should join it.
Well, also, we just don't let people in to begin with who are shitty. Right?
How do we not let people in?
Because I look at their reason for applying.
Oh, yeah.
And I decline.
I forgot about that.
If you apply, make sure you write something in the application that makes me, like, I've seen people write things that are sort of like on the edge, like, I want to start a discussion, or I would like to talk to like-minded people. And it's like, nothing in that sentence, while that sentence probably is maybe not robot-ish, you haven't indicated to me that, like, you're a listener or you didn't even mention Geeknights or anything. So it's like that is not getting an accept. You need to write something that's like,
prove you're a human who's
like
not shitty.
Someone did one today that was like, I've been a listener for a long time and have never joined the forums. And it's like, that's a good one, right? You said you're a listener and, a robot's not writing
Just
that
prove
shit.
you're a human who isn't shitty. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Write a sentence that proves both of those things.
I also wrote it properly, like a complete sentence with grammar and spelling and whatnot.
Pretty much grammar and spelling are the only real rules in our
They
forum.
didn't write like, I am listener.
I don't know. If someone said that, I might.
Maybe, sure. Whatever.
Especially if their account posted only in that language.
All right. So, a while back, we did an episode where we talked about this game, but we didn't talk too much about it. I think it was probably the PAX South review episode.
Yep. But now it's time to talk about this game in depth.
Because we have played it many times and have indeed purchased it. and we know all there is to know about it.
Sheriff of Nottingham, designed by Sergio Halavan, Brian Pope, Benjamin Pope, and Andre Zatz.
So these are, I think, the Dice Tower dudes. Is that correct?
I am not 100% sure, actually.
I think I was told that these are the Dice Tower peoples.
I can figure that out while we're talking.
Yeah, but anyway, so Sheriff of Nottingham is obviously has the theme of ye Robin Hood, right? Kind of action. The art is all awesome with all kinds of crazy characters, really well designed and whatnot.
Yep, I really like the art in this game.
It's very, very professional arts. And basically the game works like this. Someone is the Sheriff of Nottingham. You know, King John is not in the picture, apparently. Well, he's sort of in the picture. People, merchants, who have nothing to do with Robin Hood and his merry men, or Little John, or Friar Tuck, or Maid Marian, or anything like that. They are merchants, and they need to bring things into Nottingham from the outside world in order to sell them in the market.
You know, bread, cheese, chickens, the
Right.
things that people need.
Right. The sheriff, he's at the gate of Nottingham, and he doesn't want anyone bringing things into Nottingham that shouldn't be in Nottingham. Things that might help Robin Hood and his merry men, like crossbows, rye bread, pepper, silk for Maid Marian. You know, nothing like that is allowed, right? Only things that are allowed are apples, chickens, cheese, and bread. That's it. No other imports.
So every game, all you do is go around and someone's the sheriff, and everyone puts between 1 and 5 goods in their bag, and they look the sheriff in the eye. It says
You have an actual bag that you put actual cards in and snap shut.
a snap that it makes a loud, audible snap.
And when you give this bag to the sheriff and look them in the eye and tell the sheriff what is in the bag.
There are 4 chickens in this bag.
Right. There's really only 20 different things you can tell the sheriff. You must pick one and only one of the legal good types. So chicken, bread, cheese, apple. And you give a number between 1 and 5. The number must be correct. If you have 3 cards in the bag, you must say 3.
Yeah, you can't lie about
Right,
that.
so there's really only 20 possibilities of things that you could say. 1 apple, 2 apple, 3 apple, 4 apple, 5 apple. 1 chicken, 2 chicken, 3, right, etc. And you hand him the bag. Now, what's in the bag could be fucking anything. Who knows what the hell? It could be 5 crossbows, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
It could be 5 peppers. It could be anything. But what you tell him is something legal, because obviously you're not going to tell the sheriff something illegal. Then the sheriff, completely of their own will, may open or not open any number of bags.
The sheriff's choices are hand the bag back to you, and once they hand it back to you, they can't ask for it again. You've got it back. Those 5 crossbows are going right into your stall.
Selling crossbows here, crossbows.
Or he can open it. As soon as he unsnaps it, that's it. He can't re-snap it. He's looking in that bag. Or he can engage with you. So, Scott, what would you pay me? Would you pay me 5 doubloons to not open your bag?
I dare you to open my bag,
You
Sheriff.
dare me.
Go
eh?
for it.
Would
Go
I dare
for it.
you to open this bag if my friend Muggsy were hiding?
If my friend Crossbow was hiding in there. So here's the deal. If you have in your bag what you said was in there, and the sheriff opens it, the sheriff owes you money because he opened your totally legit goods and wasted your merchant time.
Man, if the TSA had to pay me every time there wasn't a bomb in my bag.
That would be amazing. Now, if the sheriff opens the bag and he finds something in there that's not supposed to be in there, like...
My Scott, that's
What-
a nice crossbow you got in
What
there
is
with
this?
those apples.
You said you had 4 chickens. I see 3 chickens, but this chicken is the king's chicken. How is the king's chicken in your chicken basket?
So the sheriff then throws away all the contraband if he catches it, and you got to pay him based on every card has a value that's points it's worth and dollar it's worth as contraband. Meaning, if the sheriff finds it,
Yeah, there's
him.
basically an award value and a penalty value.
It's like something will be worth like 7 victory points if it's in your stall at the end of the game, and you can use that as part of a bribe or whatever, like a deal, or it's just victory points at the end. And on the bottom, it'll say like 4. In red, meaning if the sheriff sees it in your bag, you owe him $4 if it's in there. If it's legal, it's always 2. So the chicken's worth like $3 or $4 or whatever. But if the sheriff opens your bag and you've got 5 legit chickens, the sheriff owes you $10.
Yep. So some of the goods that are contraband, like, are just like crossbow or silk or whatever, and they're just worth a lot of money if you can sneak them into town. But there are certain other goods like the king's apples, the king's chickens, the king's rye bread. if you get that stuff into town, not only is it worth a lot, it also counts as cheese, bread, chickens, apples, because at the end of the game, whoever has the most apples gets extra bonus points. Whoever has the most cheese gets bonus points. I guess it's because you get a reputation for being the best cheese dealer.
I guess.
I don't know. So the king's cheese counts as like 3 cheeses. It's like a super cheese. So if you get that into town, it's going to be really easy for you to win the cheese battle of who has the most cheese, because you got 3 cheeses in 1 card snuck through.
That aspect actually kind of like how Small World modified the feel of Vinci by hiding the victory points. By doing that, it sort of makes the game, like it makes the game not just calculated at the end. It makes it hard for someone to say,
Right.
I'm winning by 8, so I should do this, because if someone's got a bunch of normal contraband, that's just a bunch of victory points. But you don't know if they've got like the chicken contraband. You're not secure in your chicken empire.
When you sneak stuff into town or bring it into town legally, it's publicly visible what you have brought into town, except for contraband, which is face down. So people know how many cards of contraband you've snuck in, but they don't know what is on those cards.
Nothing is better than when you convince the sheriff to not look in your bag, and he hands it back, and you pull 5 motherfucking contraband and just lay them all face down. I cannot express to you how good that feels.
So here's the thing in this game. Number 1, the way you draw the cards, we're not going to get into those rules because they're just sort of a little bit fiddly.
It's hard to teach this to people.
Yeah, but basically you draw cards in certain ways, and there's also discard piles, and sort of like a rummy situation. It's easy for other players to know what you could have in your hand because some of the cards you draw are face up when you draw them, and if anyone's paying attention, which the sheriff should be, they can figure out what is in your hand. So if you're like 5 chickens, someone would be like, you just picked up like 3 peppers. There's no way you could have 5 chickens in your hand. It's not possible. And then they'll just call you out. Another thing is that even when it is possible, people could look around and count the visible cards. So later in the game, they're like, there's already like 40 apples out. There's no way that you can do 4 apples right
Except
now.
what
It's
I've
so,
found
it's
happens.
so unlikely.
What I found happens in practice is there are so many cards in that
You
deck.
can't count perfectly because there's so many freaking cards.
People fuck up the soft count.
That's
Everyone
also
we play
true.
with, like there was a game where I legit had 4 bread in my hand, and I was like 4 motherfucking bread, and the sheriff and other people also like 1 bread, 2 bread, whatever, and the sheriff was like, there's a lot of bread out. There's no way you have bread. And no one was lying because the soft count was really misleading because there's so many cards and people overestimated what they'd seen.
Right. Also, while sneaking contraband into town is such a hugely powerful play, if you can pull it off, it's actually kind of difficult. And from what I've seen, except in cases where someone manages to bring in a ton of contraband into town, usually the person who wins this game is someone who is just able to really efficiently bring in the most legit goods into town.
So it depends because I win a lot. I seem to be really good at this game.
I'm also very good.
You are, but you have not won it in a while.
I won.
You won the early games.
I won many times.
But I think the problem is you play a very conservative strategy. What Scott will do is be like, I got 4 bags here. I'm going to open 2 of them, pay me $10 to not be in that lottery, and he'll do it randomly.
Yep, it works.
It works okay, but I've had better luck and maybe it depends on who you're playing with, but
Yeah, if someone's just really obvious.
like I had this beautiful moment with a friend of ours where I looked at him, I'm like, you said you have 5 chickens in here. What would you like to offer me a bribe to not open your bag? And they're like, I would like to offer you 4, and I immediately opened the bag because I knew there's a fucking contraband in there, and I knew they weren't clever enough right then to have been tricking me because I made them talk and make the decisions too quickly.
Right, that's another thing. Is much like Settlers, I don't really see a reason to bargain with anyone. If someone's bargaining with you, that means they're going to pay you. They want to pay you some amount less than what the penalty is going to be. But if I just open the bag, I get the penalty money.
Yeah, you'd say that.
So-
What if I offer you, look, I'll give you, I got 5 cards, right, in here. I'm going to tell you right now, 3 of them are contraband. You'll make $12 if you open my bag. I'll give you 15.
Then I would do it. But no one has made those kind of offers. Everyone always offers less than what the penalty is going to be.
Yep.
So there's no reason to take their deal. Also, if
I would say
I have that much contraband, why would I offer that? Why wouldn't I just, right?
Well, you never know.
I'm
Because
basically giving that person the game.
I might propose a deal like that to see if the sheriff is like, oh, I know there's contraband in there now,
No,
and then like opens the bag anyway, and
No.
oh, it is actually just 2 chickens.
Right. Now so there are some strategies that are out there that I haven't seen used enough, right? One of them is I got fully legit goods, but try to offer a bribe to get the sheriff to open the bag and thus pay you the penalty.
Or I want to see the strategy of no one's done this. I've offered like one. Everyone's always like 3 cards, maybe 4 cards. I would expect at least occasionally someone to be like 1 card, and it's just the most valuable contraband because the sheriff's like, who would lie about 1?
No, but that's the thing is that when you're trying to sneak contraband in, you try to do it with just 1 because that's the only way you're getting it through.
Except occasionally I've laid down 5 fucking contraband.
Yeah, but I think one thing is that the rules of the game are such that all the goods you legally declared, you get to keep even if they opened it. So if you want to sneak a contraband in, you're better off because you only have 2 times the number of players' turns in the game. So there's 5 players, you have 10 turns, 2 of which are going to be the sheriff. So you only have 8 turns in the game to get cards through. You got to get as many cards through as possible. So if you just spend a turn on 1 contraband, even if you get it in, even though that card's real valuable, that's not that great. You were better off going with like 3 cheese and a contraband, declaring 4 cheese, and if they open it, I still get my 3 cheese, that turn wasn't a waste.
See, you say that, but you're playing the game. I think your style and strategy, we'll get to this in a second, the end game of all smart players, works if like everyone at the table is super fucking pro.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's like playing Bohnanza. If I get the 1 through, the sheriff, just because of the feel of the game and you want to open bags. It feels really good to open someone's bag.
It's way more fun to open a bag than to give it back to him.
And I feel like if the sheriff doesn't open your bag...
I mean, if we were playing TSA Agent the game, or, right, what is it more fun to just say, go on through, or is it more fun to, look through everyone's suitcases and see what they got?
So I feel like if me and another player collude to, put small amounts of stuff through, so the sheriff is like, he doesn't bother opening our bags, he's probably more likely to open other people's bags.
But if you're a sheriff, right, someone putting through a small bag, it's like...
If someone says 1, I'll open it no matter what. And
pretty
much
because the penalty is going to be small, and it's likely that they're trying to sneak something through, right? And if it isn't something illegal and they only did 1, it's like, fine, I'll pay you the penalty of $2. You're not winning this game anyway if you spent a whole turn just to get 1 cheese.
But I've seen people who had a turn where they just put 1 fucking thing in there come within 2 or 3 points of winning.
Well, because they basically, it's as good as putting 1 thing in there and getting it opened that's legal is as good as putting 2 things in and getting them through.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what it comes down to is this game, we haven't fully explored, it's the same brain feel as Bohnanza, this game. It serves the same niche of gaming. It's a really, really social game. There's a lot of what's in the bag? What's in the bag? Come on. People slip barons into the bags, cards from other games just to fuck with the sheriff and fun stuff like that. The game's super fun, just like Bohnanza's super fun, because it's really a vote who wins game in the end if everyone's super smart, and it might just be a completely...
Well, it's a very largely vote who wins, but there's also a large element of luck, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, if you
just get let's say you just keep drawing tons of chickens, it's just I'm probably going to win because I can get these all in legally.
I say 5 chickens, sheriff calls bullshit, I get, $10 extra in my chickens.
And it's if you can consistently put in your bag every turn a large number of legitimate goods of the same type because your draw was so great, it's you don't need to even try for contraband because you're going to get the points for having most of legal good whatever.
But the same thing happens in Bohnanza. If I just happen to keep drawing red beans, well, fuck y'all. I'm not trading for shit.
Exactly.
My red beans.
The sheriff is going to open your bag sometimes at least, and you're going to get extra points for that. And you're going to get all these legal goods, which are worth a ton of points. So it's just that's, if you go for the high contraband strategy, because that's all you get, sure, sometimes the sheriff won't open your bag and you'll get 1,000,000 points. And then sometimes they will. And you'll have to pay a bunch of money and you'll get 0 points that turn because it was all contraband.
So I think basically Bohnanza is probably one of our favorite, most go-to social games because it's a real game. There is a pretty high luck factor, especially when everyone's good. Mm-hmm. And the game comes down to you're playing it with a bunch of friends who are super, super manipulative, and the game is this really abstract social game.
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff of Nottingham is the same brain feel, and it breaks down at about the same point. Like, Bohnanza, if you play it too much, gets to this point where people toward the end of the game make very like, well, Scott's winning, so I can't trade with him, so I'll trade with you. And this very like, how many victory points do you have? They break down at the same level of analysis.
The thing is, okay, let's say you're the sheriff at the end of the game. You see who's winning, right? And you're in second place, and you're like, do I open their bag and perhaps end up giving them money and they win? Or do I not open their bag and then they sneak a bunch of stuff through and they win?
So one thing Sheriff has that Bohnanza doesn't is that the Bohnanza trading and lying about like what's actually in your hand and what's coming up is more about convincing other people who's actually winning and convincing them to trade with you. This is more about distracting people, getting them to forget to open your bag, or like getting them focused on someone else. This is a game of redirecting your friend's attention. And that is actually a fun game. But if 5 people who have complete poker faces and act like me and Scott play this game, it's the same as Bohnanza. Everyone's like, I'll trade you this, fuck you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much my only strat. If anyone ever says, hey, Scott, pay me to not open your bag, I'm just like, I dare you to open my bag. I dare you. Go for it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And
However,
it doesn't matter what I've got in there. I say the same thing every time. That way, it's just like they don't know what to think.
See, but I pay attention to things like when someone draws cards, do they reorder their hand? And then where do they draw cards out afterward?
Yeah, if you actually look at other people, you'll see like they just take the first 3 cards because everyone's going to sort their hand by good type, right? So if someone takes the first 3 cards in their hand and puts them in the bag, okay, those 3 cards were next to each other. They're probably not lying. And someone else like picks out 3 different cards in their hand and puts those in the bag. It's like,
or not even
that.
What I'll just see is someone will take like 2 cards out of their hand, put them in the bag, then they take another card and put it in the bag.
Opening that shit.
Yep. Of course, at the same time, if they were clever and they did that, it becomes a poison cup situation, and that's where the game breaks down in the end. Okay, but in the same way,
or put stuff in your bag under the table so no one can see what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, but much like with games like Mafia, like, yes, and very pure analytical players will take a lot of the fun out of the game, but in practice, despite attempting to play analytically, people fuck up. They lose attention for a minute. A lot of people forget what they put in their own bag.
Yeah.
And the rules are very clear. Once
a lot of times the sheriff forgets what people declared. Like the sheriff, like people go to the sheriff and they're like, 3 cheese, 3 apples, 4 chickens, 1 bread. It's like, what did you have again? 3 cheese? Was it 3 cheese? I forget. What did you say?
Yeah.
It's like the sheriff doesn't remember what you declared. That's a problem.
So I think it's a great game to buy. This and Bohnanza, if you own them both,
you don't really need anything else in this category if you have those 2.
Exactly. I mean, the only other game in this kind of category at the high level is just Mafia, and you just need a deck of cards for that.
Yeah. And like we said, the theme just goes so well with the mechanic of you're bringing goods into town and the sheriff is opening your bags or not. It's that's not a lot of games can pull off the theme matching mechanic so well.
The game is also ripe for a small number of very pointed expansions.
I mean, what game isn't?
Like Puerto Rico, like expanding it just overcomplicates it.
Sure, kind of.
Like, try to imagine just quickly a good expansion to Puerto Rico.
Just some more buildings or something.
Or Turkish and Euphrates. I'm not a big fan of the expansion.
Well, you can't expand Turkish and Euphrates really well.
It has an expansion.
That's not good.
Yeah,
Fancy monument? I don't know.
Yeah. But Sheriff of Nottingham, there's some sort of like dangerous good.
Sure.
That like little I would make an expansion. Yeah, like bombs. Like
if the sheriff opens it, they get hurt.
If the sheriff opens it, they get hurt. If they don't open it and it goes into your stall,
you get
negative points.
Yeah, it's good.
Something like that.
Mm-mm.
You want to do things. The problem is this game, it can't be things that just change the analytical side of the game. It has to be things that change the psychological side. Kind of like how in Mafia, the psycho killer, like from a game theory, like game analysis standpoint, it's pretty straightforward how to use the psycho killer. In practice, people just want to be the psycho killer because it's cool.
Psycho killer.
Psycho killer, you are just waiting to flip that psycho killer over, even if it loses you the game. Mm-hmm. So like if someone's got the bomb in their hand, now there's this, like, they gotta keep their cool, even though they've got the rare cool thing and they get to do the cool thing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bomb gets discarded, and then someone picks the bomb up and then puts their bag with 5 down. And
this
is
proven to be a popular, well-selling game. I've seen it around a lot, so I don't see why it wouldn't get expanded because every other board game that does well gets expanded.
And also, honestly, groups of people playing this game are always having a loud good time.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone have a bad time playing this, even if they lose.
Yeah.
So
Seriously, this and Bohnanza, own them both and alternate which one you play, and they both have infinite replayability together.
yeah, I guess the only thing, like I said, that's negative about this game is that there's just so many cards, and the deck, the drawing is and discarding is a bit fiddly.
Yeah, the rule, it's weird. The rules, if someone's a gamer, you explain the rules once, they're like, okay, I get it. But someone who's not like really versed in like German board games and card games and everything, they will have a lot of trouble with the drawing and discarding rules until you just demonstrate it in the course of play.
Yep.
Luckily, it doesn't. You can just demonstrate it in the course of play. It doesn't affect their decisions very much.
No, it's just 2 discard piles, and it's like they could have made this game with a lot less cards, probably.
Yeah, but well, I don't know. Having so many cards, it's interesting. If the game were a little simpler card-wise, it would be more analyzable and be less fun in the long run.
Maybe.
The fact that there's so many cards, it pushes the game more toward the psychology, bluffing, fucking with your friends.
It's just annoying
game.
to have to deal with all the cards.
Yeah.
Shuffling them is
It's
not...
hard to rebox it because it's just a million fucking cards.
Yeah, you can't shuffle them properly at all.
Yeah.
And they always get sorted because, like, at the end of the game, everyone's tableaus or markets are full of legit goods, and the discards are full of contrabands, way more contrabands than you can get into your
What we do
stall.
is, like, the people who know how to play the game just shuffle the deck like crazy, split up, while someone else teaches
I think you
everyone
gotta
else
just
the
take
game.
all the cards and do the big wash method for like a few minutes to really mix it up.
Or at least end of game wash just a little bit before you put it away.
That's also true. All right. Do you want to talk about mounting your friends?
Yeah, so really briefly, because it doesn't need a huge... Mount Your Friends is a game that our friend, the Hitman Hart, bought us as a gift and made us play sight unseen at a PAX.
I didn't play it until I got to Rim's house.
It's versus Quap.
It's so good.
It is so simple and so good and so cheap that all I will say is you should just buy this game and whip it out, kind of literally.
And then mount your friends.
Yes, but it's basically you need an Xbox controller plugged into your Steam
Just
machine.
one. You pass it around. Only one person takes a turn.
It
at
has
a time.
all these other modes. You can explore that, but just there's a mode where it's just add all your friends into the game, and you just take turns trying to climb on top of each other with Quap controls.
So at the start of the game, well, it's sort of Quap-ish controls, right?
Quap-esque.
Basically, the controls are you press each one of the buttons, the 4 face buttons, A, B, X, Y, corresponds to a limb, arm, arm, leg, leg, or hand, hand, foot, foot, actually. And then when you press one of those buttons down, you use the analog stick to move that limb or appendage. And you can only move one appendage at a time. And you have sort of a weird, goofy model dude who's got some junk and stuff, and you move him around. And at the start of the game, there's a goat. And a goat is just a thing. It just sits there. And you basically have to get onto the goat and get some part of your body above the white line. And then once you're above the white line, you can press start. And if you press start while any part of you is above the white line, or enough of you is above the white line, you have succeeded in mounting, and the next player now can begin. And they have to get above the new white line, which is now higher, and they have to mount not on top of you, right? And then the next person has to mount on top of them because the white line keeps getting higher. So you can't just sort of mount onto the side. You got to climb on top of everyone that has climbed before and successfully press start while enough of you is above the ever-rising line. It's sort of like a reverse limbo in a way, human pyramid situation. But the thing is a time limit. So it's like, it's not easy to control this person with these weird control scheme, and you got to get them up there, which is easy enough, but not easy with this time limit. The other thing is that some people spawn on the left and some people spawn on the right. And also, if there's an odd number of players, someone's going to alternate between left and right spawns. When you mount, you might try to create a pyramid that leans to the right or leans to the left, making it much harder for people who spawn on that side to mount because they have much, much farther to travel to get above the line.
There are tons of other modes, and the game is just... It's another one of those things. The games that are really break out in the last several years, on like PC games and video games for me, have been these very, very simple, directly competitive games. It's like this reimagining of Atari Combat. Mm-hmm. Every game that's just a reimagining of Atari Combat that is well designed is just they're my favorite games lately. And I feel like there's been a renaissance of this kind of game.
Yep.
So it's a great game because it is skill-based, but it's also funny and fun enough to where no one's going to feel super bad when they lose.
Yep.
Uh,
It would be awesome if you had a bunch of people just playing it because it's so silly, and they could, even people who are not very good could still mount a few times and have a good time.
You know what this game
It's
is
also
for?
great if you have a bunch of people who are really freaking good at it because it would be so epic in a reverse Jenga sort of way when everyone's mounting way high and it gets real tense.
The game. So, oh my God, the coins have dicks on them too.
Yes.
Yeah, there's dicks.
Yeah.
So, but you can turn them into grapes if you don't want to see the poorly animated dick swinging around. But this is the kind of game, like if you're having a party, like at your place with a bunch of friends, just have this on a TV with the controller laying there and just let people play it. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.